Have you seen those most recent pictures from the James Webb telescope where it shows all of the different galaxies?
I mean, just a few snippets of them on Twitter, but not systematically. But go ahead, tell me about it.
Oh my gosh. I was looking at this picture, and again, my husband shows me or like presents all of this stuff to me as I'm about to go to bed, and then I just can't sleep, and he thinks it's hysterical. But he shows me this picture, and it's just all of these different galaxies, like so many that it looks like the night sky. Like what you would look and see all of these stars, like they're just galaxies. So you see that, and you're like, how do you look at that and know that you are one in infinity when it comes to that, and you think you know anything, or you feel like you've got it figured out, or you think you are as big as it gets? How do you possibly think that? And like, so to people that don't have any spiritual inkling, I'm like, I feel like we're just wired for that. Like we're wired to know that there's something bigger, and however you transmute that or translate that into, whatever that looks like for you is another thing. But just like this inner knowing that there is something bigger, right? And I think that that ties into purpose.
Absolutely. And I can even take that example that you said, and rather than explore it at the cosmological level, which for most brains is difficult to comprehend, just let's bring it down to the study that I'm in right now as you're taping. You can't see it in the shot, but I have this huge collection within my personal library of books that I've yet to read. And it's that allows me to be quite epistemologically humble, even though I may know quite a lot, as the fact that I'm a professor who spent my whole life in navigating ideas. The fact that I'm knowledgeable allows me to know how little that I know, because there's so much. So to use your cosmological analogy, there is a whole constellation of knowledge. I know 1/1,000,000th of what I could potentially know. And that not only inspires me, oftentimes when I'm about to leave on vacation, I argue that one of the most difficult decisions I have to make is deciding which book or two books to bring on vacation. And usually my wife will tell me, start that decision process early, because I go through this whole choice paralysis where I'm just standing like a zombie in front of all the books that I've yet to read, and I can't make my mind up. And oh, by the way, I'm supposed to be an expert in the psychology of decision making, and I'm completely under choice paralysis. So yes, it's always nice and humbling to realize that you're a very, very small speck in this greater universe.
So is that kind of what you mean by like your pushback on the spice of life is variety is like too much, can be overwhelming?
I mean, certainly that. What I'm arguing actually is that depending on the domain, the pursuit of variety might be a good thing or a bad thing. So in a sense, a lot of the stuff in my book can be frustrating to people, but though I'm honest, in other words, many quote self-help books are read my book and I guarantee you a Ferrari and your wife having 20,000 orgasms every time you look at her. Those are false promissory stuff. Well, I'm a lot more honest and humble in what I'm saying, which is if you read my book, I could simply offer you some statistical likelihood that you're more likely to be happy. So to the point about variety, there is no rule that says across every possible domain in every setting, more variety is better. To our earlier point about sexual variety seeking, if you're in a committed monogamous union, notwithstanding your desire to engage in multiple matings, you may want to, reel that in. But for example, intellectual variety seeking, since that's probably the thing that's closest to my professional heart, I argue that it's a very, very poor way to live life by always being a stay in your lane person. So let's take an academia. In academia, the reward systems are set up for you to be a hyper specialist because, there are only 7 other people that know about anything that you're talking about. And so by becoming a greater hyper specialist, that's where you can make a contribution. And of course, there's some value to that. If you're going to contribute to a particular scientific literature, you have to be an expert in it. But the biggest breakthroughs in science come usually at the intersections of disciplines. So the mapping of the human genome required people in many distinct disciplines to put their collective IQ together to be able to crack some of in this case, the code of our existence, right? And so I argue that life is too short to only navigate through the same intellectual journey every day. And yet most of my academic colleagues are completely stay-in-your-lane professors. And now they're stay-in-your-lane professors in many ways. They only publish on a single topic. So I am, a emotions researcher. So I only do that. I only publish in these 4 psychology journals. I only write peer-reviewed journals because that's what's rewarded in academia. Now look at my career. It's been the exact opposite. I have published countless academic papers in top journals, but I also wrote books when it was frowned upon to write books. You should only publish peer-reviewed papers. I wrote academic books and trade books, meaning for the general public. Well, that was viewed as selling out. I started a show and a podcast when very few people in general had shows, let alone professors. That was viewed as not serious, right?